Let me just start by saying something. Being an American, I always, when I come to these things, when I have someone stand up and start to invariably tell me all the things I've done wrong, I like to know who they are and what qualifies them to stand up and talk to me. So just really quickly, one of the things that I've done is I've been fairly, and I think it's something to do with my demeanor, but I've been pretty recurringly called upon to go into programs that are not functioning well. And I've done that over the last probably 6 or 7 years. And my speciality is large technical programs that are not performing. And I actually like it because the customer, as we're going to say back, and I'm from the deep south in Louisiana, we have a saying, when the customer comes to Jesus. And what that means is the customer said, you know what, we don't know the answer. And that's usually when someone like me is called. And I think it's typecasting, but I'm going to let it go. So the first thing I do, and this slide hasn't changed, some of the stuff I'm going to show you in the last 8 years. But I will tell you this. Over the last 6 or 7 years, I've gone to 3 large-scale programs. I won't name them, but they were, I can say a few of them, I think, now. Watchkeeper was one within Thales Aerospace. I've been in the CVF program, which is BAE, Naval Building, Shipbuilding, and I've delivered software in Seattle, Washington, in America. I've been to Australia, France, the UK, Israel. So pretty much been there, done that. And this is what I find everywhere I go. Why do most large-scale programs, and when we say fail, what I mean is fail to live up to their potential? And the reason is because there's a big misunderstanding about what program controls is, why we need it, and what I really find there's a big gap in is how do you do it? A lot of people can intellectually tell you how to do risk. And it's like I had a customer once that sent a bunch of people to Primavera class. I think it was 4 or 5 days. And then he had a big tick marks. Oh, all my program managers have gone to Primavera. They'll be able to go in and do scheduling. Not. The most they could remember is how to turn it in and how to turn it on and log in. It's not like that. Reading something and then going out into the gritty, dirty world to actually bring it into life is a totally different skill set. And not everyone has it. Let me just show you something, and this hasn't actually changed in probably since 2005. I was working with the MOD, and the MOD did a major review on all the MOD projects for the last 20 years as part of their smart procurement drive. And this is what they came up with. And what they came up with is that a shocking number of large-scale programs failed to live up to their delivery potential. I actually went about a week ago and I checked this against IT programs because they're the most notorious. And the number of IT programs that underperform is even higher than this. So what we're saying is you have about a 16% chance to be successful out of the gate. Out of the gate. Wake up in the morning, that's your reality. The question is why? If I'd asked you to take all of the ideas you've ever heard and say, why do most projects fail? Let me tell you what they tend to go to immediately. Everyone goes to technical problems. Patrick, we were designing an unmanned aircraft to fly 30,000 feet. My God, man, how do you de-ice that thing? Nobody knows. And I said, well, did you do statements of work? Oh, we didn't have the time to do that, Patrick. Did you do a bottom-up estimate? Well, no, the guy said I could have 14 million, so I took 14 million. These things are completely predictable. My favorite is a tram to nowhere. You want to bet they actually had their requirements well scoped out before they started? I'll lay a year's paycheck they did not. When you look at this, and the thing I like about this is my reality. I'm not buying in, as we say in America. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid of somebody else's idea of what reality is. This is my reality over 15 years of bumming around all of those sectors. Aerospace, software, naval engineering. And now, lately, BAA, Heathrow, I ran the infrastructure program, 700 million in a year, 168 programs. They were last when I got there. They were one when I left. It took 18 months. No nonsense. It's not hard. The answers are easy. The big problem, as I'll get to my next slide, and someone else said, is culture. Culture and discipline. I had a boss one day that told me, he said, you know, Patrick, you can do program management on the back of a rock if you have discipline. No amount of integrated software will do it if you don't have discipline. So, and here's the thing, I'm cursed to go around the country telling people this and no one believed me. If you get those 3 big squares correctly, if you get your organization correct, if you get your project objectives correct, and you get your project planning correct, you will be 70% more likely to succeed. And I'll tell you what I notice in this. I call it the champagne and nibbles stage. You bid on a big contract, you win. I see you shaking your head. You've been there, I've been there. Everyone starts jetting off to places in the world. They're drinking champagne. The big bonuses are being handed out. I usually come along and go, when are we going to do that document management system? Oh, Patrick, we only got 4 deliverables. Why are you sweating me on that? There's money to be spent here. And he's like, okay, well, why don't we get the scheduling systems done? Why don't we figure out how we're going to do risk? Oh, later, Patrick, later. And then they want to wait until they're getting 100 changes a month to figure out how to do a change management program. That's the wrong time to figure out how to do a change management program. But it's always the way. People never want to stop and organize first. They want to spend and build. What role does EVM play? And I'm a great believer in EVM. And I actually talk about EVM like a person, because I think if it was a guy, he would feel really hard done by. Because the first thing that happens with EVM is when the company tries to do it, it points out all of the problems within their organization. And people tend to take that badly. It's like criticizing someone's marriage or calling their baby ugly. And then what they do is they attack earned value. Earned value, you know, I was great at change before we tried to do earned value. No, you weren't. You were terrible at earned. The reason I like earned value is, and I tell customers this, you learn more about your company and your failure to do earned value than you do if you run it. There is nothing in earned value that is not required if you never print out an earned value report. Honestly. Anybody wants to get me after the lecture, we can go through it. There's nothing required of earned value that you should not be doing as best practice. Earned value is actually just a calculation at the end. And to me, still, earned value represents best practice because it will not let you lie to yourself. Without earned value, you can lie to yourself until the cows come home. And there's plenty of people that will help you do so. Earned value will actually show you a terrible number that cannot be explained. So for me, it is the gold standard. And I've got this just because I know I'm talking to planners, and that's something I'm going to talk about later on. A planner that doesn't understand earned value in my company wouldn't have a job. We use earned value for all our major programs. And I'm going to show you a slide later. Schedule is centric. I tell people, they say, oh, I'm going to do that, but it's not in the schedule. And I said, then you're not going to do it. I don't believe you're going to do it till you put it in the schedule, because everything is driven centrally from the schedule. Change goes in the schedule. Cost goes in the schedule. Resources in the schedule. Why would I put stuff not in the schedule somewhere else? It's crazy. Earned value in itself is a very simple program. A lot of people in England tell me, oh, you got to be some kind of magic guy to understand earned value. It'll fry your brain. You know, fluid will leak. Not at all. Earned value just converts time to money. Time is money. That's all it does. It takes all the stuff in the schedule, gives it a value. Anybody here older than me, slightly been around the world, remember the bad old days? And I'll just tell you quickly how it used to work before on value. You had 100 things on the schedule. The contractor put the 100 of the easiest things up front. He put the 50 hard things in the back. He went through half of the schedule, then came to you and said, I wanted half the money because I'm 50% way through my to-do list. Therefore, I must be 50% through the program. Pay me. Then he put all the hard stuff at the back, couldn't do it. Everything went to litigation. And he said, well, if you want half of an aircraft carrier, it's up to you. But of course, nobody can use half an aircraft carrier, so the company always paid the money that was left. That's why you have earned value. The reason I tell you that is when I go to a company that is not solving that problem, I say you're wasting your time. If you're not using earned value to fix that problem, there's no point. Save yourself the million quid. Just do nothing and don't lie to yourself. Earned value is not a financial tool. The hardest program I ever fixed was the one down in Australia. And when I showed up, flown all the way from England to Australia to fix this program, it was being run by finance. I despaired. Not because I don't like finance. Nice people, I'm sure, love their kids and their dog. But they tend, and as someone gentleman said it before, they tend to try to force the finance system to marry with the program system. It can't. They run at two different speeds to fulfill two different purposes. And I started getting, I saw you agreeing with me, sir. We call that in the South testifying. Feel free to come up to the podium. But what happens then is you start getting these huge negative numbers. And they'll say, oh, we have to balance the sheets, Patrick, so we put in a negative 12 million into the earned value calculation to make up for the money we didn't put in last month. And I tell people, that's the crack cocaine of an earned value system. That's like saying someone came in, did 10 million pounds worth of work, and left 10 million pounds on the table. There's no point in that, fellas. So anyway, make a long story short, it's not a financial tool. And if you give it to financial people without the proper training, for those of you who are married to finance people, if you give it to them without the proper training, they will probably try to turn it into a finance tool, which will not mean that it's then working for you as a program management tool. The challenges, and I talked a bit about this. The challenges in most program controls and project controls doesn't lie. And again, just me, I've never, in the whole time I've been doing this work, had a tool ride to my rescue. I've never thought, oh God, thank God, Primavera is here and I'm saved. It's normally been how well I've implemented Primavera. I watched one company go through 3 document management systems in 5 years. The first time they did it, I tried to stop them. By the second and third time, I just sat there. I'm not proud of that, but I really tried the first time. They made the same mistakes with each system, thinking, oh, is something wrong with the system? Nothing was wrong with the system. There was something wrong with them. If you pour documents into a system without a procedure, without a structure, and without discipline, you're not going to be able to find anything. They tried it with a second system. Guess what? And people had come and gone. I was still there, and they were saying, you know, for some reason, Patrick, we can't find any documents. Because surely not. Well, we can't. So the idea is this culture. If you underpin a good, strong culture of delivery, all of these systems will work. Most systems don't have a problem. It's the implementation and the culture that's the weakness. And again, as I told you before, the organizations that do this tend to highlight the following weaknesses. And I'm just going to give you these examples because I'm not a guy that believes in borrowing your watch to tell you the time. I know the problem, the answer, and the methodology. To me, problems are easy. Nobody pays a lot of money for that in the world I come from. They actually want to know how do you fix it. And a lot of times the reason you got to know the cause is because what the customer thinks is the cause is usually not the cause. So the first thing is you need a robust baseline and it needs to be developed. Welcome to the planner's world. You cannot believe how many times I've gone to a company and they can't do a robust baseline. They don't understand baseline control. I don't understand that myself. They'll have a baseline that they don't change, that they don't keep up to date, and they'll have another schedule that they actually work to. And they don't realize that their earned value and their payments are done from the baseline, not from the one hanging on their wall. The second challenge, planning process must identify all deliverables clearly within the PMB. What do I mean by that? You would be surprised. A lot of people will have effort in the baseline. They'll say, oh, 10,000 engineering hours, Patrick. That's what that is. I go, great. What does that deliver? Haven't got a clue. But we know when we hit 10,000, there's no more money. I said, well, actually, shouldn't you do it by deliverables rather than by effort? What's the sense in that? So what I'm saying is I've had clients that I know were providing their monthly cost reports into the project, not based on what they delivered to the client, but for how many people came and clocked in for the night shift. Now, if a customer wants to pay that, fine. But actually, that doesn't mean they delivered anything. That just means 50 people came in, they clocked in, they drank Coke, and they left.